they didn't go to school and study Carnival glass and then go out and start buying it. It turns out that they were with Steve's mom in an antique mall, and she thought that something looked okay. Oh, okay, we're on that one. Okay. And so they ended up buying an Imperial grapes ruffle bowl in Miracle. And of course they didn't really know that it was an Imperial grapes ruffle bowl. They just thought it was a pretty orange Carnival glass bowl. They decided to try to find something out about what they bought, so they went and bought a book on Carnival glass, and they started studying it, and then they discovered the New England Carnival Glass Association, and they went to one of their conventions, and they went to one of their auctions. And we all know the rest of the story, right? We all know what happens when you discover the Stretch Glass Society, and you go to one of their auctions, or you discover the New England Carnival Glass Association, and you go to one of their auctions. All of a sudden, you meet all these really cool people, you buy all this really great glass, and you have all of a sudden fall in love with it. And suddenly, you're a collector. And that's what happened to these guys. And so they both enjoy learning about the colors, the patterns, the rarities, etc. They comment on a regular basis on the Carnival discussion board. We see them often weighing in, answering questions, clarifying things, presenting new information that maybe others don't know. And it's wonderful. So we've gotten to know them. And over the years, they've collected different patterns, different colors. They say that they view themselves as eclectic collectors because they collect what they like. And it turns out that they have grown to like stretch glass. And so they now have some stretch glass in the collection. And so before I tell all of their story and leave nothing for them to say, this is what I was giving in my introduction. I'm just going to say that we're looking forward to hearing from them, or from you, a little more detail about what I just said, and looking forward to hearing about all this wonderful glass that's up here. So I'm going to give him the microphone, I'm going to get him wired up twice, and he's going to take it over.
So hopefully you can hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now? So everything Cal said is completely true. So I do want to introduce you to my two best friends that I came with. I call them my roadies because they're in charge of logistics. But I'll introduce Jill first. I've known Jill since 4th grade. She drags me to high school reunions, so I thought I'd return the favor and drag her to a convention. We come home from our conventions, we go to probably half a dozen a year, and we tell Jill about the goings on at these conventions, and she really just doesn't believe it all. So we had to bring her to show it that it's all true. And second, I'd like to introduce Steve Lindquist. I met Steve June 16th, 1990. And it's one of those days that changes your life. So we met on June 16th, 1990. We bought our first house together in December of 1990 and proceeded to remodel the house. We were taking down wallpaper, we put in new windows, we put in a new furnace. And one of the things that was wrong with the house is the balusters up the stairwell, every third one was missing. So Steve's father was a woodworker and had a full woodworking shop in his basement, and we brought up some sample balusters and he made us replacements that looked identical. So as a thank you, because of a trip to an antique mall on Cape Cod, yes, we bought an Imperial grape marigold ruffle bowl and gave it to them as a thank you gift, because Steve's aunt loved Carnival glass and had Carnival glass, so Mary loved it too. So what do you give your parents and your in-laws, who have everything? So you give them a piece of Carnival glass. Well, it sat on the coffee table for about a month before we actually got back to the Cape to give it to them. And in that time, we just thought about it and thought about it. Now, both Steve and I have the collector bug in us. We both collected stamps as kids. I knew what glass was because my aunt and uncle were Heisey dealers. And as a kid, I used to go to glass shows all the time. They were mostly elegant Depression-era glassware. And the first real piece of glass that I ever owned was a pair of Heisey Candlesticks. So I knew what glass was. Steve and I would go to these glass shows, and it was all crystal. And nothing really, hit us. But we stared at this piece of Carnival glass for about a month, and it just grew and grew on us. So we ended up buying the Edwards Encyclopedia and heading out to every antique mall that we could find, buying everything we could possibly get our hands on, and what we bought was junk. So it wasn't until we went to the New England Carnival Glass Association convention and auction that we saw these tables filled with Carnival glass of color and iridescence that we had no idea even existed. So we ended up joining that club. The next year, Steve was vice president and I was treasurer. So we also went to Tampa, and we are now members of about 10 Carnival glass clubs as well as the Stretch Club. So, as you develop your collecting, you sort of focus on certain things. And we had a small house, so we focused on first vases. And we were buying certain things, but we ended up selling our house. We put it on the market on Friday. We went to Vermont. We came home. The real estate agent called us. "Your house is sold." I said, "Oh crap, we don't have any place to live." So we ended up buying another house about a mile down the road. And when Steve and I were walking through the house, 2 bedrooms had built-in shelves. The living room had built-in shelves. And we looked at each other. This is perfect for Carnival glass. So we bought a house because of Carnival glass. So we moved into that house. Unfortunately, that house was also old. We put on a new roof, new windows, new furnace. So we stopped collecting for about 5 years. And when we got back into it, we went to New England. And as a New Englander, you seem to be drawn to a couple manufacturers. You're drawn to Northwood. And I'll point out, Northwood is along the back here. Northwood is really famous, I think, for their electric blue. This is a Poppy Show plate. This is a Greek key plate in cobalt. They're also famous for their grape and cable. I know on Hooked on Carnival Glass the other night, they had a statistic that grape and cable has the most pattern or shapes, in that they have 49 shapes listed in HOC. We probably have about 45 of them. But I brought 3 tankards. You have your standard tanker, you have your standard pitcher, you have your tankard pitcher. It's a little thinner, a little taller. And about a year ago, I came across this. This is the standard water pitcher, but it's stippled. So Carnival glass has the difference between unstippled and stippled. I think that when Northwood started making custard glass and they stained the glass brown or blue or green, that stippling helped with the stain and to help hold the stain. So after they stippled the mold, they made Carnival glass out of it. So a friend of ours found this on eBay and bought it, and then relisted it on eBay as stippled because it was sold as just a regular water pitcher. And he listed it for quite a sum. Several people said it's not stippled, even though he showed a close-up, and offered him $150 for it. And I said, first of all, they're lying through their teeth. If they're offering you anything for it, they want it. And why do they want it? Because they know it's not worth $150. So he took it off of eBay, and I told him that I would make him an offer. So I bought it. Now the stippled we have tumblers to match. We have the standard and the tankard. The tankard's a little taller. Unstippled. And I also have the regular tumbler stippled, but I have the tankard stippled. So doesn't that tell us that I should be able to find a stippled tankard grape and cable water pitcher? So I am looking for that. Also in Northwood, we collect mostly patterns, but there's only a handful of patterns that we actually collect the pattern itself. We want all the different variations, we want the different colors, and one of those patterns is Peacock at the Urn. So this plate came up in Tampa about 10 years ago. Steve and I went down to Tampa and we're like, we're gonna bid on that. And there was a gentleman behind us who, I don't even think we got a chance to raise our hand. So he bought it. I think we did bid on it because he bought it. The minute he put it in his hand, he walked out of the room. But before he left, he tapped me on the shoulder and he goes, "You got some good glass too." So I think he was kind of apologizing for outbidding us. But this actually came up in this room on June 16th, 2018, just about a month and a half ago. Now, if you remember, Steve and I met June 16th, 1990, so that was 28 years to the date. So Steve and I, the way we usually buy glass is at a convention, and we usually walk around towards the end of the preview and say, you know, what are you interested in? Well, I said there's really only one thing. Steve said, well, there's really only one thing. And we both walked over to this piece together. And Steve said, we're all in on this piece. So we did end up going home with this. I did tell a couple other people we were buying it so that they would not bid against us, but that's okay. That's okay. So this is sapphire blue with a pastel iridescence on it. You know, if you hold it just right in the light, it's really beautiful. It's also a very difficult color to photograph. So we started collecting Northwood, but in New England, you also have to collect Dugan glass. And over here, we have some Dugan glass. Dugan has some very iconic pieces, farmyard, or chickens. They have the Christmas compote. And what makes Dugan popular is electric purple. Here's a daisy web hat. And if you can get an opportunity to come up and look at the inside of that, that's what we call electric purple. So Dugan is very popular. Now, when we think of Dugan, they made 90% of the peach opal glass. This is flowers and spades. It's very very rare. It's uncommon, but we found one when we purchased it. But it's crystal glass with opalescent edges and a marigold iridescence. Obviously, peach opal is just not as desirable as a Dugan purple. But they did make other colors. This is called ice lavender. They made ice blue. But they also made Celeste blue. And this is a stretch piece. You can feel along the edge that it's stretched. It has that texture to it. And you can kind of tell the difference between an ice blue and a Celeste blue piece. They also made what we would call maybe Florentine green, the windflower gravy piece. So we're collecting Northwood, we're collecting Dugan, and then I walk into an auction and I see this piece. So we had to start collecting Imperial purple. And this is electric purple by Imperial. And you can see this is also electric purple. This is a diamond and sunburst wine set, wine decanter or whiskey decanter. So Imperial is known for their electric purple, but they also made other colors. They were known for smoke, Gothic arches in smoke. They also made Helios green. It's a green with a silver iridescence. Not necessarily the people's favorite, but here's a piece of amber. And another piece of electric purple. Imperial grape, loganberry. So as we're now collecting in Imperial glass, we move over into Fenton glass. Fenton in Carnival is known for their water sets. They have some of the best water sets, I think, the most interesting patterns. But as you know, water sets take up room. So we started collecting some of the smaller pieces in Fenton. And because Fenton has unusual colors, lime green opalescent in a water lily, amethyst opalescent in a vintage pattern, moonstone, it's kind of like an opaque with a minute. Cherry red, holly hat, reverse amberina opal. But one thing Fenton also makes is advertising and souvenir pieces. This is a Parkersburg Elks convention plate from I can't even read it, 1914 in blue. And this is an Illinois Soldiers and Sailors Home memorial plate in Quincy, Illinois. So they made these souvenir type pieces. Fenton also makes a lot of advertising. Compliments a Spector's department store. And souvenir of J.N. Ledford Company, Coolamy, North Carolina. These are both made on the Heart and Vine pattern with the advertising in the center. Now the fifth major Carnival glass company is Millersburg Glass. We don't have a lot of Millersburg glass. They were only in business for about 3 years. They're mostly colors of amethyst green, marigold. They do make some blue. And if you find blue, it's very expensive. They also have some Vaseline glass, which is also very expensive. One of their most famous pieces is the Millersburg Courthouse Bowl. Not necessarily rare. You can actually find them quite easily in an ice cream shape, but they also come in ruffled. But this building stands in downtown Millersburg, and the Millersburg Gathering is held there once a year. The Millersburg Glass Club has a convention right there in Millersburg. But we have a couple pieces, primrose, holly, both in amethyst. But when you find Millersburg, they did a wonderful job with iridescence. You can find electric green. You can find electric marigold. I've seen beautiful, beautiful pieces in Millersburg, just not within my price range yet, so I've left them behind. We are thinking of joining the Millersburg Glass Club soon, so maybe that'll change over time. So we have collections in the 5 major Carnival glass manufacturers, and one thing we like to collect is patterns. You know, I'll go through all the pattern books and I know the patterns, I'll list them out, and if we don't have a pattern, that's what I'm interested in buying. Even if it's a simple geometric pattern, which a lot of people shy away from, I said there's always something interesting. This is Star and File. Now you can find the pattern quite easily. It's usually in marigold, a couple times in smoke, but this is a footed jelly. It comes on a underplate with the indentation that the jelly sits in. I was fortunate to attend a bath auction of Tom Burns. He had like 5 of these in a box slot, so I bought 5 of these. I was in Tampa this year and this was in a room sale. So I picked this up for $20. And you just don't see these a lot. So I'm very interested in them. And you have the matching, well, not necessarily matching, but this is a tall sherbet. Again, on the underplate. They made like 4 different items that sat on this underplate. So this is a geometric pattern. It doesn't create a lot of excitement, but because it's a unique shape, we're interested in it. So we're buying a lot of glass from the 5 major Carnival glass companies. And of course, we end up attending a lot of conventions, and we start seeing stretch glass. So stretch glass is sold at Carnival glass conventions. So we understand what it is. We're also looking, in the beginning we acquired books on Northwood, Dugan, Imperial, etc. And they're not Carnival glass books, they're just books on Northwood and Dugan. And they have sections on stretch glass, so we understand what it is. So we were in Maine attending the New England Carnival Glass Association Spring Fling, and about 30 of us go up in April, and it's almost like a competition because there's several antique malls up there, and Harold goes up first just so he can find the piece and tout that he found the best piece that weekend. So Steve and I go up. We don't go up until Saturday. We go to the same antique malls that they've already been through, and we're not finding any Carnival glass to buy. It's been well picked over. So we're walking by and we see this on the shelf for $20, and I picked it up because it's blue. If it was green, I may not have picked it up, but I like blue. So I picked it up and I said, well, for $20, let's just get it. So this is our first piece of stretch glass that we bought at a New England event. So we have our first piece of Carnival glass and our first piece of stretch glass. So we start thinking about stretch, but we're also thinking about other types of iridized glass. And so we do accumulate different things that we're not really collecting, but sometimes I just like to have an example. So we buy a piece of Imperial jewels. We buy a couple pieces of new art. This is signed new art along the bottom edge. We buy the Imperial paperweight. I offered Gary to exchange this for his. Didn't work. But we bought this Carnival glass. People claim this as their own. I think it's in the line of Imperial jewels. Stretch people claim it. We all want it. So I was fortunate enough to come across I came across this in Gary Lickford's room. We buy a piece of lead luster by Imperial. And no, I don't know how many balloons are around this. 26 or 27, I'm told. But we have 2 of these. This is the taller one. We have a smaller, wider one that in smoke. But it's iridized. So one of our boundaries in buying glass is it has to be iridized. We don't buy, we try not to buy. I shouldn't say we don't. We try not to buy anything that isn't iridized. We have a small lampshade collection, and this is signed new art. But these are also signed new art too. The Homestead plate and the Chrysanthemum plate by Imperial. So they are signed new art, but they're definitely considered Carnival glass by the Carnival glass collectors. So as we're going along, we actually start buying some more stretch glass. So the first piece we bought was actually purchased at a mall. The only other piece of stretch glass that we've ever purchased at a mall is this piece here. We came across this in Connecticut, in Collinsville, Connecticut. There was 2 of them. So I had picked both of them up. Steve had walked by them. So I said, Steve, come back. And so we were looking at them. And I was all set to buy the both of them. And then a very nice shop employee came up and was talking to us. And he goes, yeah, it's a shame that one is cracked. And I'm like, what? So sure enough, in the bowl of the second one, there was a small crack that went around the bowl. So I put one down. We texted Tom a photo of it and said $20. And he said, buy it. So we bought it. So
Should have bought the one with the crack
I know.
also.
So I showed this to you after I bought it, and you said, oh, you should have bought the one with a crack. So sure enough, a month later, we go back to the same shop, and it's gone. So I don't know what happened to it.
Somebody has it.
So somebody has it. But it has a crack. All the other pieces we've essentially bought at Carnival glass auctions or conventions where we visit rooms and we buy some glass. One of the reasons that we bought some Carnival is because, well, that we bought some stretch, is that Carnival glass doesn't come in a lot of candlesticks. And seeing that the first piece of real glass that I ever owned was Heisey candlesticks, I was interested in owning more candlesticks. So we have the grape and cable candlesticks. We have a pair of 6-sided candlesticks by Imperial. And there's a couple other candlestick examples in true Carnival glass, but you don't find a lot of them. So we started buying stretch glass candlesticks. I brought a couple here to show. Most of the ones that we have pairs, but I didn't pack both of them. This is like the only one that I don't have a second to. It's a Northwood piece in a deep amethyst. So I am looking for a match for that one. But another thing that really interests me is the console sets. You don't really see console sets in Carnival glass. So I was interested. We bought the double scroll at a Hoga convention in teal with the candlesticks. We bought the tangerine plate in, I believe it was a Bath auction. So then I said, well, maybe this should have candlesticks. So we ended up purchasing the Fenton candlesticks to go with it. We attended an auction in Hagerstown and bought the Northwood Twist candlesticks because I knew there was a bowl on eBay. So I said, you know, if we get the candlesticks at the auction, I'm going to buy the bowl on eBay. So we bought the candlesticks, and on Sunday I was on eBay and I bought the bowl. Now I know there is a larger bowl available in the Northwood Twist pattern. So liking the pattern, we ended up buying, I think we bought the small vase first. Or I think we had the large vase. We had the large vase first, and then Tom in Bath, New York had 2 or 3 more tall ones. So we bought one at Bath, and we bring it home, and they're not the same height. So I'm like, damn. So we ended up with, and we also bought the smaller one in Bath too. So even though the 2 taller ones come out of the same mold, they're shaped a little bit differently, so you end up with 2 different heights. So now I'm looking for 3 more vases. I don't know if those would have been a pair, necessarily been a pair. I kind of felt like I wanted a pair, but maybe not. I bought this set from a person at Hoga. the large bowl, and the May West candlesticks. So again, out of a room at a Carnival glass convention. I bought the set at a Rhoda auction, Carnival glass auction. And I bought the tumble up at a Hoga auction. So this stretch glass is appearing all the time at these Carnival glass conventions. I bought this out of a room at Hoga, the Northwood Jade Blue. We have about 10 pieces of Jade Blue. And the reason we have it is because our guest bathroom is Jade Blue. So, so we end up decorating. It's probably the one thing, I know people talked about how they use their glass. Steve and I do not use our glass, with the exception of an occasional vase. We have all of our glasses in cabinets. We actually have a collection of Haviland dishes. I have place settings for 24. I have over 150 serving pieces. We also have a collection of Fostoria stemware that I can complete my set of 24. So we haven't had 24 people over for dinner, but Steve's mom got a set of Haviland when she got married, and it was old then, and Steve and I inherited it, and it was a luncheon set of about 30 pieces. Now it's about over 400 pieces. Entirely through eBay, because you don't find it in a mall. You have to buy it online. Some of the other pieces of stretch, this is an amethyst bowl, Imperial, not stretched, but we liked it. We have some other Northwood covered candies. I did buy an ashtray set, and then I bought the inserts. So I have a set of 3 inserts. No, I got this in Bath, New York. So I have 4 inserts, 3 that fit, and then I have a duplicate. So I'm missing one, but have a duplicate. So I'm sure there's someone here I could trade this one for. Right?
Might be.
How easy is it to find? It's hard.
It's hard. It's very hard.
It's very hard. So.
But we would be happy to
So I need.
mention that in the
I need the
stretch glass
second.
newsletter.
I need the second smallest,
Okay.
and I have duplicates of the 3rd largest. So.
Talk to Becky Ann. We'll put your wish in the newsletter for you.
Okay. So we were at an auction, a WWCGA auction, and the auctioneer walks in with a set of candlesticks, and he's passing them around. He's like, does anybody know what this is? And this is got the 3-part mold at the top, so it is Vineland. And it's amber, and I believe they call it old gold.
With beer bottle brown.
Beer bottle brown, good. So he paraded them around in front of everybody, and he put them in the auction as lot 100A. So they weren't in the brochure, and so he was excited about them, and I was the only bidder. So I got them, and at the end of the auction, a woman walked up to me and she goes, I really wanted those. I completely spaced, so I will give you X for them. And I said, no. So I didn't space. So this is another set, and this is an amethyst color. So we came across another set. So we have 2 sets of those. So, we bought our second house. We bought it because it had built-in cabinets. We filled those. We didn't collect for like 5 years, but then we started buying some more. We filled up the built-in shelves. We bought 2 cabinets and put them in a bedroom. and filled up those. Then we bought 2 more cabinets, and every time thinking, this is it, this is it. We filled up those 2 cabinets, and it was always, I didn't want to put any glass in a box. I'm not one to, buy something and then put it in a box and throw it in the attic. We've met several people who do that. They have huge collections, and they talk about, the 50 boxes in the barn. So we didn't want to go there, so I said, we're always going to, so I told Steve, we're always going to have our glass on display. And then I said, the second rule is we're not putting any glass in the basement. So about 2 years ago, we bought 2 huge cases from Yale University at a local auction, 7 feet tall, 7 feet wide, like 15 to 18 inches deep. And we put those in the basement, not even knowing, because we only have like 7.5-foot ceilings in the basement. But they fit, and those are now full. So I'm looking for 2 more very large cabinets from Yale University. But so we now have glass on the floor of the basement, which is not good. So we need to come up with a way. So it is a disease. Trying to figure it out. So we either need more space. Steve and I have never really sold anything. We have been collecting this for 25 years. The things that we've sold have been sold through tag sales, just getting rid of something. We've sold a couple pieces on eBay when we upgrade a piece, but we haven't really sold a large volume of glass. We've essentially kept everything. Some of the things we're getting into, or maybe I'm getting into, Steve's a little confused at the moment, but I started collecting contemporary glass. I've been working on a website and been noticing that there's not a lot of information out there about contemporary Carnival glass, and one of the things I got interested in was club souvenirs. So go on eBay, they're trying to get $35, $45, $55 for a club souvenir. Well, then I go to an auction and there's 6 souvenirs in a box lot, and you buy the box lot for $10. So in less than a year, I've gotten like 80% of the club souvenirs for all the clubs from Australia. I'm missing 1 Australia club souvenir. I've got most of HOGA, most of ICGA, most of ACGA. I acquired 2 Encore club souvenirs today. Encore was a contemporary club in the 70s and 80s by Dorothy Taylor. So these are Encore from, I think we read 1985 was the convention. But all of these are, ACGA, the American Carnival glass, ICGA, the International Carnival glass. These are Heart of America Carnival glass. Clubs really started, so souvenirs go back to like the late 60s and really go up to like the 2000s. And that's when it got too expensive for clubs to buy souvenirs. But a couple clubs have been talking about souvenirs, new souvenirs. So I know that the Texas Carnival Glass Club will be issuing a souvenir this coming March. So in reviewing contemporary Carnival glass, I was born in '63, moved to a house in Ellington, Connecticut, a 200-year-old farmhouse in Ellington, Connecticut in 1968. And it had no floor in the living room, but 7 people moved in. And my mother went around redecorating. And being at 1968, with the bicentennial coming up, everything was decorated in fife and drum, the American Eagle, and it was quite overwhelming. When I moved out of that house, I said, I want white walls and white furniture. So what am I collecting now? but bicentennial Carnival glass, fife and drum, the American Eagle. So these are both Fenton pieces that I've collected or accumulated. So a couple contemporary pieces that we've been buying. What's amazing about contemporary is that when it was made, it was an investment. You bought it. Dorothy Taylor, who had the Encore, she said in her newsletter, it's better than interest in a bank. There were articles about, you buy a plate, there's 12 plates in a series, you buy a plate, every year it's going to double in price, and at the end of 20 years, it's going to be worth $30,000. I'm in there putting this into an Excel spreadsheet and saying, if this happens for the next 15 years, according to this individual who wrote this article, you'd have a $5,000 set of glass.
Right.
So I bought my complete set for $32.50 about 3 years ago. So it wasn't really a good investment. But now's the time to buy it if you're interested in it, because you can buy 12 Imperial Christmas plates for $32.50 in the boxes. So we've accumulated some of that. Let's see. So one of the things that I said in the very beginning is that we collected vases. Well, we still collect vases. One of the first stretch pieces that we started collecting was the smooth panels vases. And it's one of the patterns that we are trying to get all the different colors in. Again, most things we just get one piece as an example. But with the smooth panels, we're trying to get all the different colors. So we have ruby red. We have purple or amethyst. Something ice. Rose ice. We just got this recently. What I would call wisteria. Amethyst ice. See, I knew I wouldn't be teaching you anything. What we would call teal. Green ice. We do have the marigold over milk and the smoke over milk.
Did he get it right?
Smoke. Blue ice. And then I found this one in Tampa about, I don't know if it was this year, but I think it was the year before. And this is amber. It's smooth. So I don't know if I'm missing any colors.
Iris ice.
Which would,
We've got iris ice. Crystal strip.
Do they have a pink one?
That's rose ice, but then there's a iris ice.
okay. So I do have several whites. I have the smaller ones. I do have a funeral vase in marigold, the largest size. This, I think, is the second largest size. I have one that's true white stretch with the stretch. This is almost like a matte finish on it and a very smooth interior. We bought this in Bath, New York, and there was a bidder online who wouldn't give up. So I did buy that. And here's another piece of stretch that shows up at a carnival convention. It showed up at New England last year. It's in the hospitality room. An individual is showing it around. I said, what are you going to do with that? He goes, going to sell it. I said, well, how much do you want for it? And he goes, $400. I said, Steve, get the checkbook. So we wrote him a check, and I took possession. And we were on the first floor, right by the hospitality room. So this is sitting on our dresser in the room. And Mr. Burns walks by and he goes, there can't be two of those in this hotel. Because you came looking for it.
Yes, I did.
And I didn't know that.
Oh, I really
So he did though. So I think timing is everything, right?
I'm glad you got it.
So I do like those. Another vase that we collect in colors is the Northwood drapery vase. 3 pillars with drapes in between. And with the problem with these is you have to watch the toes. They're always damaged. But here's a cobalt blue sapphire with really pretty iridescence on it. Green, ice blue, ice green, lime green, which is different than the ice green, and marigold. So we are looking for amethyst and aqua opal. Here's white. This is one of these pieces that you're really honored to own. In Tampa this year, we walked into a room and I needed the white. So Steve and I walk into Ray and Shirley Henry's room. And I said, oh, that's nice. And so they gave me a very nice price and I bought it. And then Ray's gone. So this piece will always be with us. So a couple other pieces. These are very popular in New England. Are they popular everywhere else? But there's one in the auction tomorrow that I was told to return to New England. But these are the double-handled in what we call smoke. And I also have the plain Jane basket. Chesterfield in teal or green ice. The mid-size or the larger sherbet. And I did buy this recently, the sherbet with an underplate. I'll ask you, is this right?
Greg,
Okay.
is the plate round base or does it have a snap base?
I don't have my glasses on. Sorry.
Snap base.
Yeah.
It's a snap.
Then it would be correct.
But it slides around. So. Okay. That's how I bought it.
If you find it with the ground base, it's actually the mayonnaise base.
Okay.
There would be a little bowl that sits in it that also would have a ground base.
Okay. So, Steve and I always used to start my talks as, I collect Carnival glass. So now I'm confused. I don't know what I collect. I would say, that I collect iridized glass, but that's not true either. We don't collect art glass that's iridized. We really are collecting the manufacturers from the 1910s, 1920s, the Imperials, the Fentons, the Dugans, the Northwoods, that made the Carnival glass in 1910, and then in 1916 started creating the stretch glass. So it was just a natural progression to expand your collection into something else. But as Cal said, we have an eclectic collection. We do walk around the rooms, we walk around the auctions at the convention, and fortunately, when Steve and I pick out pieces, we always come to the same piece. We'll walk around and say, what do you like? What do you like? And we always end up picking out the same pieces. So we have the same taste, and we just love the glass. We love the people that we meet and deal with every time we venture out. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. Yes.
Yeah. These people, the stretch people, you folks have confused the heck out of me with your terms. White ice, Fenton, Persian pearl, white. why don't you educate them about what we call Celeste blue in certain companies, sapphire blues, ice blues?
Well-
Because they probably don't understand a lot about that.
Well, that's,
Because
Carnival though, Derek.
that, yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
still, they don't know the difference. Let them learn it. Because there's difference.
No, we know them very well.
They know.
And the reason, our tradition is that when Barry Wiggins was really sort of our historian, the person doing all the research, he demanded that the stretch glass people use the original names the companies use. So that's our tradition. We understand when you say sapphire, we know that that's going to be a Northwood deep blue. And unfortunately, in the Northwood catalogs, they didn't separate. They made actually 3 different blues, but they just called it blue. So that's why we call all 3 of those blue, but I'm finding that our stretch glass collectors are now beginning to separate out the sort of Celeste blue Northwood from the sapphire blue, because the sapphire is richer. It's has a nicer color to it.
Did you say
So
Northwood Celeste blue?
Pardon?
Did you say Northwood
We
Celeste?
would say Northwood Celeste type, but in reality,
I'm listening.
in
He's
reality,
educating me
in the
differently this
Northwood
time.
catalog, all 3 blues were just blue.
Blue, correct. But
Yeah.
that's our terms nowadays. that
Right.
we've adjusted.
yeah, I think when they made Carnival glass, the advertisements often advertised the iridescence. So whether it was a marigold piece or a purple piece, it may have been advertised as the same piece, and what they were talking about was the iridescence on the glass, whether it was a marigold type iridescence or a. So when in the 60s, when Marion Hartung and Rose Presnick were naming patterns, but they were also naming colors, and they did name a piece ice blue, because we refer to the color as the base glass, not the iridescence on it. We often put an adjective in front of the base glass to say electric blue, pastel marigold, but ultimately the color of the glass is the base glass. So where you have your sapphire blue from Northwood versus your ice blue from Northwood. Also, we kind of think that some words are reserved for certain companies. Sapphire is reserved for Northwood. I'm just looking at Kathy because I want to get this right. But Fenton made Celeste blue. They didn't make sapphire, although I would actually call this sapphire opal, but and Dugan made Celeste blue simply because we want to differentiate it from their ice blue. But I don't think we would call anything by Dugan sapphire. We would call Dugan Celeste, Fenton Celeste, and we call Northwood sapphire. Fenton Celeste. Millersburg didn't really get involved in these colors, and Imperial. Imperial, this is a piece of Imperial aqua. It's got more green in it. So, we have arguments all the time about colors. We have club meetings, and someone brings in a piece of Fenton glass, and they'll say, "What color is this?" And you'll get 4 different answers. So, it really is. We've kind of created our own monster in the Carnival glass community with colors, because people want to believe that it's a unique color, that it was a production color, and therefore it's worth more money, and not that it's an end-of-a-day batch color, or they just screwed up the mixture that morning and they still ran the glass and it came out slightly less blue than the other day. So is it just a variation in the color that they meant to produce, or is it a true production color? I think people seem to think it means a difference in value. So that's Steve and I's collection. We hope to continue collecting for a long, long time.